My name is Henry. I come from a pretty traditional family. We have this one rule. Every summer, no matter how busy things get, we drop everything and take a road trip together. It was the one thing that I, as a teenage kid, always looked forward to. But the summer of 2002 was different. We still took our trip, but it didn't leave us with fond memories. Instead, it left a chill down our spines, a memory that, even now, no one in my family ever dares to talk about. That year, we decided to visit Niagara Falls, a place we'd been excited about for ages. For the first time, we didn't book one of those familiar hotel chains. My dad, through some obscure travel website, found this old, secluded hotel tucked away deep in a nearby forest. For a sense of adventure, he'd said. The moment our car turned onto the dirt path leading to the hotel, I got a bad feeling. The air felt thick, and the forest was unnervingly silent. The hotel emerged from the trees, swallowed by old, towering woods so dense they blocked out most of the sun. The light filtering from behind cast a giant, looming shadow over us. The facade was covered in a white paint that had yellowed to a sickly gray, peeling away to reveal patches of wall that looked like bruises on skin. The windows were tall and narrow, their thin yellowed curtains stirring slightly, even though there was barely any wind. My little brother's face scrunched up. He whispered, "Dude, this looks like a haunted house." My dad, who never believed in ghosts, just laughed and nudged him. "Awesome, right? Maybe tonight we can do a little ghost hunting, what do you say?" He kept poking my brother until he finally cracked a smile. Just like that, the mood was light again. But as we stepped into the lobby, a draft of ice-cold air brushed past the back of my neck, slithering under my shirt. And I swear, I heard a whisper right next to my ear, a sound without words. I flinched, whipping my head around. Nothing. The lobby was sealed, the door was shut, and the reception desk was clear across the room. Weird, I thought to myself, but the excitement of the trip quickly pushed it from my mind. Until that afternoon, after we'd checked in and rested for a bit, I went down to the lobby to grab some snacks. When I got back, I called out for my dad to come eat. No answer. I figured he must have fallen asleep. I walked into the living room of our suite, and my heart just stopped. My dad was sitting on the sofa. His head was slumped onto his chest, his arms hanging limply at his sides. His body seemed fixed to the couch, locked in a horribly unnatural position. The dim yellow light from the lamp beside him lit up only half of his face, leaving the rest in shadow. He looked terrifyingly unfamiliar. My voice trembled as I stepped closer. "Dad, Dad!" Not a sound. The silence in the room was deafening. I placed a hand on his shoulder to shake him gently. His skin felt unnaturally cool to the touch. A sense of unease washed over me. I called out louder this time, "Mom, Leo, come look at Dad." They rushed in. We all tried to get his attention, calling his name, shaking his shoulder. My mom, her voice trembling, pressed her hand to his cheek. "John? John, can you hear me? What's wrong?" My brother tried to lift his arm, but it was strangely heavy, as if he was completely lost in a deep trance. After nearly 5 minutes that felt like an eternity, my dad suddenly gasped, a deep, ragged breath. His eyes flew open like a man breaking the surface of water. He shot upright, his face still pale, and pulled us into a tight hug. His voice was shaking. I felt lost, trapped somewhere. I could see you all, I could hear you calling, but I couldn't respond. It was like being stuck in a dream I couldn't wake up from. Hearing that, I immediately pulled my little brother closer, my only thought being, we have to get out of here. Now. In a flash, we were throwing everything back into our suitcases. As we hauled our luggage to the door, the hotel seemed even darker than when we'd arrived. And standing right at the main entrance was the receptionist, the beautiful woman with the long dark hair and the faint smile. She was there, waving a friendly goodbye. Out of instinct, I raised my hand to wave back, and A sudden, bone-chilling draft wrapped around my wrist. I flinched and pulled my hand back. The feeling vanished instantly, but my skin was still cold, and the air around me suddenly carried a dank, musty smell. But there was no one in front of me. My dad saw my reaction and immediately asked, "Henry, what's wrong?" I told him I felt something cold. It felt like something touched my hand. My dad grabbed my wrist, and I think he felt it too. The unnatural cold that still lingered. His face went pale. He immediately rushed us towards the car, his voice urgent. "Go, go, go!" We practically threw ourselves into the car and sped away, and without a single glance back. A few days later, once we were safe at home, my curiosity got the better of me. I tried to look up the hotel online. Nothing. No website, no phone number. Not a single photo that matched the place we had stayed. It was as if it had never existed. I don't know what really happened that day. But my dad, from that day on, never made another joke about ghosts again. Back in 2008, my college friends and I decided to take one memorable trip before graduating. We went somewhere far but beautiful, Malibu Beach, California. Me, Jack, and Lisa were really excited for this trip. But our friend Anna told us she had a bad feeling. At the time, we just figured she was being sensitive, probably worried about finding a job after graduation. We never expected that Anna's intuition was actually a warning about the thing that was waiting for us on this trip. The journey was long, a stuffy flight, then a cramped rental car. By the time we finally found the hotel, the sun was beginning to dip below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. The hotel was built in an old classic style, something my dad would have called charming. Jack, who was driving, saw them first. He slammed on the brakes in the gravel driveway and pointed towards the long, shadowy veranda. "Whoa, check it out," he whispered. Standing there was a woman in a long, old-fashioned dress, watching over 4 small children playing silently on the porch steps. There was something odd about them. They weren't running or shouting like normal kids. They were just arranging pebbles into small patterns. The woman didn't smile. She just watched them, her face a pale oval in the fading light. "That's unsettling," Lisa said from the back seat. "I'm ready to get inside." By the time Lisa and I got out of the car and looked back, they were gone. The veranda was empty. "They must have gone inside," Jack said, though he sounded unsure. We shrugged it off. People come and go. We were tired, and the promise of the ocean was calling. The inside of the hotel was no less strange. The air was thick with the smell of salt and something else. Something musty and sweet, like old wood and dried flowers. Our footsteps echoed in the silent lobby. We barely threw our bags into our rooms before sprinting down to the beach. Malibu was everything we had dreamed of. The sand was cool, the waves crashed in a steady rhythm, and for a little while we forgot about the unsettling hotel, about graduation, about everything. I was the last one in the water. As I was swimming back, I glanced at the shore, and I saw them. 3 figures, hand in hand, standing right at the water's edge where the waves lapped at the sand. I thought it was Jack, Lisa, and Anna playing a trick on me, getting ready to run off. I felt a surge of annoyance and started swimming faster. A large wave rolled in, blocking my view for a second. When it passed, the shore was empty. Completely empty. I looked further down the beach and saw them, my real friends, still splashing around in the shallow water, laughing. I shook my head, blaming the distance and the setting sun for playing tricks on my eyes. Maybe I should get some rest, I thought. But now, looking back, I don't think it was just a trick of the light. I think those figures weren't an illusion. And maybe they weren't people at all. After a long day of sun and surf, we were all exhausted. We split up to go to our rooms. Jack and I were sharing one, Lisa and Anna the other. That night, something happened that has haunted me ever since. I was deep in sleep when a sound pulled me out of it. A slow, deliberate creak, the sound of our hotel room door opening. I reached out a hand, mumbling, "Jack." But the space next to me was empty. I figured he'd just gone to the bathroom or maybe for a late-night snack run. I rolled over ready to fall back asleep, but the door creaked open wider. I thought it was Jack coming back, so I turned to look. Standing in the doorway, silhouetted by the dim light of the hallway, wasn't Jack. It was a child, a little boy, no older than 10, holding a baby wrapped in a blanket. My breath caught in my throat. I blinked, trying to clear the sleep from my eyes, and another child appeared next to him, a little girl. Then another boy holding the first boy's hand. I shot up in bed, my heart hammering against my ribs. "Who are you?" I managed to whisper. "How did you get in here?" The children didn't answer. Their faces, pale in the gloom, turned towards me. Their expressions weren't curious or scared, they were blank, empty. The oldest boy, the one holding the baby, pointed a small, trembling finger at me. His voice was flat, cold, and not like a child's at all. "You're in the wrong room," he said. The other children joined in, their voices overlapping in a strange, hollow chorus. "Wrong room, wrong room, wrong room." Their voices didn't get louder, but the feeling in the air grew heavy. I wanted to run, to scream, but my body wouldn't obey. A heavy stillness fell over me, rooting me to the spot. I couldn't move. I couldn't even make a sound. I blinked again and they were gone. The doorway was empty. For a second, I thought it was over. I thought I had imagined it. Then the feeling of the air in the room shifted. A sudden, deep cold settled behind me, as if the doorway was no longer the only entry point. I was terrified, trapped. My mind raced. I couldn't fight, I couldn't run. So I did the only thing I could think of. I started to talk, my voice a desperate, pleading whisper. Hey, it's okay," I stammered. We're just staying here for one night. We'll be gone in the morning, I promise. We'll leave you alone." To my astonishment, the heavy feeling in the room seemed to lessen. It felt like they were listening. I kept talking, just rambling, telling them about our trip, about how we were celebrating before we had to go out into the real world. Finally, the cold presence seemed to recede completely. A moment later, I heard the soft click of the door closing. I snapped awake, gasping for air, drenched in a cold sweat. I frantically looked around the room. It was empty. I turned to my side. Jack was there, fast asleep, snoring softly, completely unaware. I lay there for the rest of the night, staring at the ceiling, my mind reeling. Was that a nightmare? I kept asking myself. Or was it real? It felt too real, too vivid to be just a dream. The next morning, I told my friends what had happened, expecting them to laugh or tell me I was crazy. Jack was skeptical, but then I saw Lisa's face. It had gone completely pale. She looked at me, her eyes wide with fear. "Henry," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "I had the same dream last night." We all stared at her. "It was the same 4 kids," she continued. "They came into my room too, but there was someone else with them. A woman with long dark hair. She stood behind them. When they turned their attention to me, she just put a hand on their shoulders. She guided them away, not looking at me at all, as if I was just a piece of furniture in the room. A cold silence fell over our group. We looked at each other, and in that moment we all knew. This wasn't just a coincidence. This wasn't just a dream. We checked out of that hotel an hour later. As we were leaving, Jack, ever the curious one, asked the receptionist a final question. "Hey, just wondering," he said, trying to sound casual. "Were there any other guests on our floor last night? A family with kids, maybe?" The receptionist smiled politely as she handed him the receipt. "No, sir," she said. "You were the only guests on that floor last night, just as we had predicted. The strange family Jack had seen on the veranda. They were the same ones who had visited us in our dreams." One summer, I joined a volunteer program with my college friends in a rural part of California. It was a poor region, but a friendly one, home to people with a romantic spirit. We were there to help the locals organize a traditional festival in the hopes of a bountiful harvest. It was a fun and lively festival, and it would have been a beautiful memory for me if it hadn't been for that terrifying dormitory. We were housed in the dormitory of an old school. Even though it had been renovated, the place was still thick with the smell of damp moss and rust. Despite that, being college kids, we were filled more with curiosity than caution and just wanted to explore the place. The room they gave us was large, filled with old iron bunk beds. I've always been a light sleeper, so I prefer a bit of quiet. I spotted a single bed in the far corner of the room. It looked older than the others, the iron frame slightly bent, but it meant I wouldn't have someone sleeping above me. It was perfect. I claimed it immediately. As I was unpacking, I saw something out of the corner of my eye, a flash of movement in the hallway. A girl with long, dark hair gliding past our open door. It was strange. Our wing was strictly for the male volunteers. The girls' dorm was in a separate building across the campus, a good distance away. I mentioned it to my friends. Jack, my best friend, just laughed. "Dude, you've been here 5 minutes and you're already seeing things. Or maybe one of the girls has a crush on you and couldn't wait to check you out." We all chuckled, falling back into the easy, stupid jokes of college boys. We were so caught up in our own world that we never noticed the pair of eyes watching us from the shadows of the hallway. We never felt the silence that fell just outside our door. That night we were exhausted. We'd spent the entire day building the stage for the festival, hauling wood and equipment under the hot California sun. The moment my head hit the pillow, I was out. I thought I would sleep straight through until morning. I didn't expect to be woken up by the cold. It wasn't a normal chill. It was a deep, penetrating cold that seemed to seep into my bones, making me shiver uncontrollably. I sat up, my breath fogging in the air. I looked towards the door. It was wide open, framing a rectangle of perfect, impenetrable darkness. I figured someone had forgotten to close it properly. I started to get up, my only thought to shut out the cold, when a shadow detached itself from the darkness in the doorway. A girl with long, dark, disheveled hair. I jolted awake, my heart pounding against my ribs. I was sitting bolt upright in bed. I frantically looked around. The cold was gone. The door was shut tight, just as we had left it. Nothing had happened. It was just a nightmare, I breathed, a wave of relief washing over me. I reached for my phone on the nightstand to check the time. It was exactly 3 a.m. I took a deep breath, shook my head, and forced myself back to sleep. The next morning, I told Jack and the guys about it. Of course, they just teased me. "Did you see her face? Was she pretty?" Jack chimed in. "Probably not, 'cause if she was, this would be a whole different story," he joked. I laughed along. It had to be a nightmare. Just a weird, vivid dream caused by not being used to the new place, right? The next day was just as grueling as the first. When night fell, I was ready to sleep for a week. I climbed into that same old bed, pulled the thin blanket up to my chin, and drifted off. And then the cold came back. This time it was worse. It felt like ice water on my skin. I shivered, my teeth chattering. A low whistling sound filled the room, like wind rushing past my ear, even though the air was completely still. My heart started to pound in my chest. I knew what was coming. I slowly, hesitantly turned my head towards the door. The large door was wide open, but no one was standing there. For a second, I felt a surge of relief. But then I looked back towards the center of the room. She was there, the woman from my dream, standing right in the middle of our room. This time, she wasn't a shadow. I could see her very clearly. Her long, dark hair covered most of her face, but I could see her eyes, large and dark, fixed on me. And then, she simply stood there, watching me from the center of the room. I was frozen for a moment, and in that same instant I was awake again. I was hyperventilating, my body drenched in a cold sweat. But I was safe. It was just another dream. A more terrifying one, but still just a dream. My hand trembled as I reached for my phone, needing the comfort of its light. I pressed the home button. The screen lit up. 3 a.m. exactly. The next day, I couldn't pretend it was a joke anymore. I didn't tell the whole group, just Jack. I told him everything, my voice low and serious. He didn't laugh this time. He could see the genuine fear in my eyes. "Dude, that's messed up," he said, his own face pale. "You can't sleep in that bed tonight, no way." "But where am I supposed to sleep?" I asked. "The floor? It's freezing in here as it is." We debated for a while. And then Jack, in a moment of bravery and curiosity that I will never forget, looked at me with a determined expression. "I'll do it," he said. "I'll sleep in your bed tonight. We'll see if anything happens to me." I tried to talk him out of it. I was genuinely scared for him. But he was determined. He insisted it was the only way to know for sure if it was just me, or if it was the bed. So reluctantly we switched. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in Jack's bed, staring into the darkness, listening to every creak and groan of the old building. Every so often, I'd tiptoe over to his bed. He was sleeping soundly, his breathing deep and even. Each time, I'd feel a little bit of relief and go back to my own bed, telling myself it was all in my head. But then, just as it had the past 2 nights, I woke up. I didn't need to check the time. I could feel it, that familiar, dreadful hour. I still grabbed my phone. 3 lisp. A cold dread washed over me. I immediately jumped out of a bed and ran to Jack. I shook his shoulder. "Jack, wake up, Jack!" But he didn't move. I shook him harder. Nothing. His body was unnaturally still. His breathing was shallow but steady. A cold sweat beaded on his forehead. A sense of panic rose in my chest. I started shaking him with more urgency. The other guys in the room started to stir, woken by the commotion. We were all around him now, calling his name, completely helpless. I didn't know what else to do. I just kept shaking him, my voice pleading. "Come on, Jack, please, man, wake up. You're scaring us. Just wake up." And then, as suddenly as it had happened to my dad years ago, Jack gasped, a deep, shuddering intake of breath. His eyes flew open wide with a terror I had never seen before. We didn't tell this story to anyone, afraid that to others this would just be a fabricated story. I found out later that in the few minutes we were desperately trying to wake him, he had been trapped in a dream. He was standing in our dorm room watching the door creak open. The woman with the long dark hair would appear, stare at him, and then the dream would reset. The door would close, then creak open again. The woman would appear again, over and over and over. Jack knew he was dreaming, but felt completely unable to wake up. He said he felt a deep sense of disorientation and confusion, a feeling that the strange, repeating scene might go on forever. We moved to the girls' dormitory that same morning. We didn't care about the rules. We told the organizers one of our friends was sick and needed to be closer to the main office. They let us move, and the nightmares stopped. But even now, years later, Jack still tells me that sometimes when he wakes up in the middle of the night for a split second, he can't tell if he's really awake or if he's still in that room waiting for the door to creak open again. He says that sometimes, even now, he's not entirely sure.